Welcome back to the AI Breakdown Brief, all the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. Recently, prominent YouTuber and product reviewer Marques Brownlee got a lot of attention in the AI space when he called the Humane Pin the worst product I've ever reviewed, for now. Basically, the gist of that review was that almost everything that was useful about the Humane Pin was better done with just your phone. However, at the same time, he saw the glimpse of the future, where it could be really nice to not have to be tethered to a screen. This kicked up a whole discussion about the role of reviewers and the nature of what product launches should be. And of course, it was a little bit colored by the fact that Humane had been building this product for years and had spent hundreds of millions of dollars on it. But it also brought up this larger question of just whether AI hardware is ready for prime time. Well, that question has come up again with a vengeance now that Marques has dropped his review for the Rabbit R1. He sums it up in 2 words: barely reviewable. Interestingly, Marques has not just identified this as a problem in the AI hardware space, but sees it as the apex of a trend that has been growing for a long time. As he puts it, this is the pinnacle of a trend that's been annoying for years, delivering barely finished products to win a race and then continuing to build them after charging full price. Games, phones, cars, now AI in a box. Let's listen to a clip from his review to get the gist of what he's saying.
It feels like it used to just be make the thing and then put it on sale. Now it's like put it on sale and then deliver the half-baked thing and then iterate and make it better, and hopefully with enough updates then it's ready and it's what we promised way back when we first started selling it. And then this whole period in the middle is a mess. And it's across all kinds of product categories too. It's also happening with cars and vehicles getting announced and then delivering with like a half-finished state where you just don't get a lot of the features that you paid for, and they're eventually coming soon with a software update. Smartphones, obviously we've been seeing this for years, but it does seem like now more than ever, there's at least one major feature of every smartphone launch that gets announced, but that's not coming until later in the year. And now these AI-based products are at like the apex of this horrible trend where the thing that you get at the beginning is like borderline non-functional compared to all the promises and all the features and all the things that it's supposed to maybe someday be. But you still pay full price at the beginning, which is what makes it so crazy.
Now, let's talk about community responses to this. A lot of people agreed. Adam Vestica from The Shortcut writes, "This is so true of gaming, and it's a horrible trend that started during the last generation. I've got nothing against launching a game in early access, but so many titles are released with the promise of getting better down the line." Darryl Basanjo writes, "The Rabbit R1 and Humane AI Pin are the culmination of a trend of launching unfinished products that are sold at full price, and then users get the promised features only after software updates." I saw many people compare this to treating your early customers like investors, which of course they're not. Dave Snyder writes, "This is the byproduct of the product design and management strategy that pushes half-baked products for a few data points. An overwrought practice where too many test underdeveloped solutions, groping blindly for signal while ignoring the glaring flaws. In the realm of physical products, this approach is an absolute nightmare verging on fraud. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get back to shipping what's right." Annie Younger joked, "You, an AI hardware CEO, says, 'I want to build a fun product that will improve the pace of AI progress.' Your investors say, 'Ship an MVP and iterate, do things that don't scale.' Marques Brownlee says, 'I'm about to end this man's whole career.'" And just as with the Humane Pin, where Marques was representative of the larger sort of consensus review take, the Rabbit R1 is also getting some pretty negative reviews, even beyond Marques. Snazzy Labs writes, "The Humane AI Pin is one of the worst products I've ever reviewed, and the Rabbit R1 is even worse. Video later this week on why good ideas don't translate to good products, and why Apple and Google will clobber all of these AI startups by the end of the year." Now, just to add a little bit of controversial sauce on top of this, Snazzy Labs also added, "What I would like to reiterate is that the AI Pin is leagues better than the R1. Yes, it's overpriced and not very good, but it knows what it wants to be and does a very limited number of things decently well. The same cannot be said of the Rabbit. They're not comparable." But what about the Rabbit team? Ryan Fenwick, who does communications over there, says honest feedback, which is cool. We're in the very early stages of the new AI hardware industry. The important thing is to move fast, continuously update the product, and keep improving the experience for those of you who are on this ride with us. Jesse Liu, the CEO, said, "We shall see how fast R1 improves and evolves. We are a tiny team trying to catch the fast pace of AI. The current levels of AI need strong human-supervised fine-tuning. You can't take your time polishing features without real user testing. We will push the OTA fix as early as tomorrow to address most of the bugs we found. Thanks, Marques Brownlee, for your very detailed explanation of LAM. Looking forward for you to do an R1 revisit very soon." So I think that this tweet is important because it's not just a founder trying to justify that they're early, but is at least in a small level, giving an argument for why this is actually the right process to use. Jesse writes, you can't take your time polishing features without real user testing. Joel Karanin responded to Snazzy Labs with another argument for why the Rabbit R1 approach is better than the Humane AI pen, saying, I would argue that the Rabbit R1 is better because it's substantially cheaper with no subscription. It's meant to be an impulse gadget purchase rather than a lifestyle commitment. Snazzy Labs responded with the snazzy response, I will say you get what you pay for, but I think it's an interesting point. Is it more justified to charge someone $199 once to get that user feedback rather than $699 with an ongoing subscription? Now, there is a lot to unpack here. You can make all sorts of arguments from all sorts of angles. I think one of the key questions is consumer expectation versus reality. One of the things that clearly frustrates Marques is the gap between what these devices promise and what they actually deliver. In other words, I think that he would say that these companies are not presenting themselves as an early beta, but presenting themselves as the thing, ready to go, ready to be in the world. And then trying to have it both ways, saying we're just a tiny team and we're trying to grow fast when things don't go that well. Of course, another line of common commentary, largely from entrepreneurs, was pointing out that every new technology seems barely reviewable at the beginning. Graham Fleming even shared a video of one of Marques's very early reviews and said if Marques Brownlee decided his initial videos were barely reviewable instead of posting and iterating, would he be where he is today? Now, that's a great score for Twitter points, but of course, the difference is that Marques wasn't asking people to pay money for something. Figma engineer Vivek writes, absolutely love what Marques Brownlee is doing. I don't understand how people can defend dumping trash on consumers and overselling it as the next great thing. Nobody owes anyone a benefit of the doubt. Don't want to get reamed by consumers and reviewers? Make something good. I think that these questions are really interesting. It seems pretty clear so far that the agentic capacities of AI just aren't really sufficient for the agentic promises of the AI devices that have been announced and released so far. At the same time, that doesn't mean that A, those devices won't actually catch up, especially as the agentic capacity of the AI software underneath catches up. And B, it doesn't mean that AI hardware couldn't take a different approach focused on a specific type of use case that might actually fit better. For example, neither the Humane AI Pin nor the Rabbit R1 are focused on the same use case that some of the next generation of AI devices seem to be, of keeping a record of all your conversations and interactions in a way that allows you to go back and better recall that information. Will that be a killer application that doesn't require AI agent capacity? Maybe. Then again, we won't know until they get released. All in all, if nothing else is clear, it's that AI hardware is going to be a very difficult space. And so for now, anyone who buys into these products has to understand that that's what they're getting into. For what it's worth, I think by and large, most people do. Now, that was obviously a little long for an AI breakdown brief, but it was a big point of conversation. So I'll just hit a couple more stories before we head on to the main part of the episode. First, Apple is apparently poaching from Google for a secretive AI research lab based in Zurich. Apparently, they've hired something like 36 employees from Google over the last few years, much more than any other company they've poached from. And Microsoft has announced its latest big global AI investment, with CEO Satya Nadella announcing yesterday that the company would invest $1.7 billion in Indonesia over the next 4 years. As part of that, they're also committing to help train 2.5 million people in Southeast Asia with AI skills, including about 840,000 in Indonesia itself. Anyways, friends, that is going to do it for today's AI Breakdown Brief. Next up, the main AI Breakdown.